Yo, what up, YouTube? Haven't talked to you guys in a long time. I'm currently sitting on a exercise ball, so I might be a little bouncy. I'm now using it as a computer chair. I've been for a while. I find it to be much more fun, and my back feels much better. So, if you're using a computer chair and your back's hurting you and you're hunched over, get an exercise ball. It almost like it really helps to promote more complementary posture, which I'll talk about in other videos. But this one's on refined oils and their role or lack thereof in the human body. So recently I was told that refined oils are beneficial, such as like coconut oil, olive oil, canola oil, because they lube the organs and arteries. And that's a false notion. They do not. What they do is they cause a mucus reaction in the body that builds up plaquing, which leads to atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis. Such a difficult word for me to pronounce. So anything that we put into our bodies that has a reaction with the mucosa membrane is essentially something that's going to put us closer into or further into a state of dis-ease. Dis meaning without ease. Without ease. So when we consume refined oils, they're basically coating our insides, getting into our bloodstream, inhibiting the uptake of sugar, and when sugar is unable to be absorbed and utilized, it spikes the blood sugar, insulin, or has an insulin response, and then we see things such as diabetes, type 1, type 2, and we attribute all these issues to sugar, and people are so afraid of fruit sugar, when the issue is the fat. It's not the sugar. The fat is what messes up the intake of sugar. And on another note, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. And most of the time it'll be disguised. So say chips, say corn chips. You think that's a high carbohydrate food because corn carbs. But if you actually look at the amount of refined oils in chips, it's actually about a 50 to 50% ratio. So instead of a high carb, low fat, you're actually eating a high fat percentage, which is extremely detrimental to the body. You're just creating obstruction. So a way to tell if we're consuming a high amount of fat is you wake up in the morning, you've got grease on your face, you might have acne, sludgy bowel movements that are kind of like pale and opaque and just slimy and leave residue in the toilet, leaves you having to wipe and use extra tissue, which is totally unnecessary. We shouldn't even need to wipe. I don't wipe. Well, I mean, I use like a square of tissue paper just to make sure that there's no residue, but I usually just squat over the toilet and it comes right out. When these fats are in our bloodstream, it thins the blood, which is the opposite of what you want with healthy blood building. Because say if you get injured and your blood's thin, you're just going to bleed out and your wound's not going to be able to heal. Whereas if you had thicker blood, which is developed through fruit sugar from fruit, which is great for cleansing and detoxifying and purifying the blood, this thicker blood will actually clot and coagulate and essentially scab up the wound in a much shorter period of time, which is something that's going to be extremely beneficial to you. Less scarring, less pain. It's definitely not going to create as much of an inflammatory response. You're not going to be oozing out fat and pus or mucus when you're wounded. Also want to touch on fish oil because it's such a huge market. It's like one of the largest. I think it's could possibly be one of the number one selling supplements. And that right there should just tell you something.
The album, it was,
One sec.
Children of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really